Yeah, Mike, when people go to follow you at Mike Prysner, right, they will see your name is Shut Down Red Hill. And I want to get your take on this very quickly because I think this is an amazing example of what American empire delivers to everyday people, the myth versus the reality. So this is nearby Pearl Harbor. And we have some news here I want to get your reaction to. Senator Brian Schatz announced $100 million in federal funds to defuel the Red Hill bulk fuel storage facility on the island of Oahu. I want your opinion on this, but before I do that, I want to also put up this article from 1978. It is, let's see, one second. Here it is. So this is from 1978. Dillingham gets fuel tanks job. Dillingham Corporation has been awarded $19.9 million contract to renovate the Navy fuel storage facility at Red Hill. And this is just a 1978 article saying what we know now, which is that these deteriorated condition of the storage tanks threaten to pollute Red Hill's underground water reservoir, which provides, all this. So what's your reaction to the funds and give us the Red Hill story that people should know?
Yeah, and the journalist you just shared, Christine, she's been doing incredible work on the Red Hill crisis. Everyone should follow her. People like Oahu Water Protectors, Sierra Club of Hawaii, are really putting out important information on this. It's something everyone should care about. I think to really understand what's happening at Red Hill, you got to go back to the origins of Hawaii being a part of the United States. Hawaii was a sovereign kingdom. It had kind of played the diplomacy game and been recognized as a sovereign kingdom by British powers and so forth. And so it was a sovereign government. It was a progressive monarchy. It was I think when people hear queen, that they had a queen, they think the Queen of England, but that's not really the case. Hawaii was of course an incredible place, and Pearl Harbor, which is not always called that, but that was known as the breadbasket of Oahu, the island of Oahu. It was nothing but fisheries and places where people got, it was like all of the food of the island came from this place. It was super advanced and developed in the ways of working in harmony with the ecosystem to extract massive amounts of food for the people on the island, and also live at peace and harmony with the environment where it was so sustainable. And it's hard to overstate how important Pearl Harbor was to the island of Oahu and to Hawaiians. The United States saw Pearl Harbor and said, this is a really good place to park aircraft carriers and to park naval destroyers. So in 1895, they sent the Navy to Hawaii, and they carried out their first their first regime change operation, where they took guns, they surrounded the presidential palace, and they said, the U.S. is in charge now. Mm-hmm. And what they immediately did is they immediately went into Pearl Harbor and just dredged it all out. They just destroyed it. They destroyed all the fisheries. They destroyed all the wildlife. And they just you can't eat a single piece of seafood from Pearl Harbor now. There's signs all around it saying it's poison. Do not even go in the water. And so that is how the U.S. military started in Hawaii and on Oahu specifically. And then every day since, that's the way they've operated. About 25% of the island of Oahu is occupied by the U.S. military. Some of this in the form of just there's one entire island off Oahu the entire island is just a bombing range for the United States. And this is an important place for Hawaiians. Hawaii was never legally annexed. I mean, even as the U.S. came and overthrew it, the Queen was playing the game of diplomacy. And instead of a call to arms of the people to rise up and go to war against the U.S. military, they actually made legal appeals, and those legal appeals were deemed legitimate. And so it's illegally occupied. It was illegally annexed, and Hawaii should be restored to the Hawaiian people. The U.S. military should leave. But so much of the island is taken over by the U.S. military and just dumped on. I mean, it's just treated with such disregard for the environment, for human life. And so Red Hill is just part of that long history of just the military just destroying it for the purposes of having, and this was the first step for the U.S. becoming a big global empire, stepping out off the once they had conquered all of the continental United States through wars of aggression against Native peoples, then they started stepping out. And stepping out to Pearl Harbor was very important for the empire. And then from there, they're able to project their power all throughout the Pacific, all throughout Oceania. And that was the reason for doing it. And so Red Hill was the fuel storage tanks to complete this mission, to get fuel to all the ships in Pearl Harbor, to send them elsewhere in the world, to kill people, to expand the U.S. empire. Now, these fuel tanks, it's just a quick rundown. It's like, many, many millions, like 25 million gallons, or maybe it's more, 200 million gallons of fuel, always stored in these tanks. The tanks are literally underground, right above the main aquifer in Hawaii, which means that when fuel spills from the tanks, it gets seeped into the aquifer and then just goes everywhere in the island. They've known this could potentially cause irreversible damage. I mean, it could cause the permanent loss of this aquifer. And we have an aquifer that's like over 20% of fresh water on the island of Oahu. If that's destroyed, I mean, life will never be the same on Oahu. I mean, you won't be able to take showers with high pressure. Yeah. You'll have to do water conservation all the time. It is just such an important, precious resource that Hawaii is lucky to have this such a huge resource of fresh water, completely destroying it. So there was a leak a few months ago, and it just shows how much the U.S. doesn't care about human life. Is the leak actually poisoned their own sailors, their own service members? The leak got into the water on their bases, and the Navy lied about it. They covered it up. They said, keep drinking the water, keep showering, keep using the water to make formula for your babies. And then just emergency rooms got flooded with people with horrible health effects. A lot of pets died, which was a really sad consequence of it, as everyone just started putting their dogs down because the vets were saying, we don't know why your dogs are so sick. And so it was a really horrible thing. And the Navy just lied about it, covered it up. So then to get to what your point about how Schultz, Congressman, secured $100 million in funds to defuel the tanks, what's happening is like a really incredible example of how the military really is above government in this country, how the Pentagon is above our democratic institutions. The government of Hawaii, the governor, the Department of Health, the Board of Water Supply has said to the Navy, issued an order from the state of Hawaii, you have to get the fuel out of the tanks. You have to do it. They said you have 30 days to come up with a plan to get all the fuel out of the tanks because the water's still poisoned right now. Schools still don't have water. It's still leaking. It's like a huge disaster. But as long as those tanks are there, we are on the precipice of a major disaster, or at least until they defuel the tanks and repair them. But they should just be taken out altogether. So the Hawaii said you have 30 days to come up with just a plan. You don't even have to take 30 days to defuel them. In 30 days, come back with a plan to defuel the tanks. So a couple days ago, that deadline passed. And instead of producing a plan, the Navy produced basically a legal suit saying we're challenging this in court and we're actually not going to do this. Wow. And so Schultz, he was quiet on this for way too long. I mean, he was quiet until he didn't have to be quiet anymore, or when he couldn't be quiet anymore. $100 million secured for the defueling, but it doesn't matter because the Navy's not doing it. Schultz also notably secured like $103 million for some new military radar to be put on Oahu. He secured over $300 million for some new military aircraft facilities on Oahu. So, he's no stranger to securing massive amounts of federal funds for the military. Maybe why he gets a lot of money from defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and so forth. But really the situation with Red Hill now is the fuel's still there. We don't know how much has leaked. We don't know where it is. There's still wells shut down. It's still a major water crisis on the island. So there's just that dealing with what's happened in the past, that this leak happened. It's not cleaned up. But then this massive struggle on the island to say, as long as this fuel is stored in these tanks, it imperils the entire island and the future of clean drinking water forever on the island. And so it's just a really, and then so you have like the Hawaiian government trying to tell the military what to do. The military is not listening to them. But then, of course, you have Native Hawaiians who are fighting their government for stronger things. And so it's fighting for sovereignty, fighting for their own land. And really my experience going there, it's just such a militarized place. I mean, you fly into Oahu and there was fighter jets on the tarmac where my airplane landed, the civilian airplane. It's like, wow. it's wild. I mean, the whole island is taken over by the military, and then you have Native Hawaiians who don't have access to any land at all. It's their country. They have nothing. And yet the military is able to just train on it, shoot bombs into wherever they want, and so forth. And so it's really tragic, but it's something that I think is becoming a big scandal for the Navy and for the Department of Defense. And so it's something that if everyone does what they can to connect with the people that are organizing in Hawaii, putting pressure on Biden, putting pressure on the Navy, this could turn into a bigger scandal. I think it was a big scandal when the leak first happened because you had all of these soldiers and military families who are covered in rashes and in the ER and their babies all sick in the hospital. It was a compelling thing. But this is the potential for this to grow into a crisis that really is like the forefront of addressing the U.S. military's destruction of the environment. Red Hill really could become that flashpoint. And so I think it's something that really everyone should do their best to learn about and care about.
Yeah, we'll link to your report, Native Hawaiians Fight U.S. Navy for Polluting Islands Water from December. And yeah, there's Instagram, Oahu Water Protectors. There's some links in the notes there so people can there. But Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, truly. And, we have links also to how you can follow Mike, and also his work at Empire Files is absolutely indispensable. Truly, it's an honor to speak to you tonight. So thank you so much for being generous.
And I love what you guys do too.
Thanks, Mike.
You guys see you soon. Bye-bye.